All right. We are here today with the one and only Michael Kaufman. He runs the Catskill Crew, which is in the Catskills, wherever that is, somewhere in New York. I think a lot of us don't actually know exactly where that is. Actually, that'll be an important question to get into. But uh, Mike is crushing it in the space. He is one of the leaders. He also runs a community that I am in that is amazing called Newsletter Club, which we can get into that too. But anyway, stoked to have you, Mike. Yeah, love to dig in. So thanks for jumping on.
Hell yeah. Pumped to be here. Excited to dive in, see where the conversation takes us.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So first, quick background. I think I was one of the first couple members of the newsletter club. Which, by the way, so let me. Sorry, just off. I'll pitch you myself here, and hopefully your payment will come through a little later for this. But not just kidding. The newsletter club is like amazing. So anybody interested in the space, I mean, it's incredible. I think I've mentioned you can check my Twitter. Like it's in Discord, which is, all communities have issues in terms of what's the best structure. I actually do think Discord is the best, even though it's not ideal. Nothing is. I literally go and read every single message. So like I don't check it now. I'm pretty busy. I'm checking like every 3 or 4 days. I will literally plan when I check what's going on because I have to read the whole thing. That's how good it is, and that's how valuable it is. It's actually annoying because I'm like, I don't want to miss anything, and I feel like I'm missing gold in there. So it's incredible. By the way, um, you should go on some community podcasts because what you've done is like people need to replicate it outside of newsletters as a community. It's that good. So anyway, everybody should join it. And I don't know how you
It's
did
a
it, but
really it's a really special place, man. My intention was never to build a community.
that's why it's so good, I
Kind of
think.
I think so. The Nexus story, I called a buddy Jason over the summer and I was like, yeah, dude. Actually, it was like last maybe March or May, and he's like, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm running a local newsletter. We just did $10,000 this month. He's like, whoa, you got to sell a course. I was like, hell no, I'm not selling any courses.
Mm-hmm.
But I did start kind of sharing my journey and my background, which we can get into, is building startups. And so it was the first time that I was publicly sharing my journey, and
Mm-hmm.
I just started connecting with amazing people, and everyone kind of we had this connection point of building local newsletters, yet we all had just totally different kind of ingredients part of our recipe. The content within our newsletters, our goals. Are we launching one newsletter in one market or building a local media empire across the world? How are we monetizing? And I was like, man, I got so much to learn from everyone else. And so I started this community. There was a buy-in, which was nominal at the time. And it was just, hey, have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone showing up, because when you open the door to anyone, it's going to dilute the quality of that community
Mm-hmm.
experience. And you were one of the first people in the door, and I'm blown away by just how good this community is, and not just from nuggets of wisdom, but like actionable. People are showing up and
Mm-hmm.
delivering value and recording master classes with me, and
Mm-hmm.
putting in work that's really helping all of us. We're standing on each other's shoulders. It's a lot of fun.
Totally.
It's a really
Yeah.
great time.
I mean, it really is. There's no question that I wouldn't be where I am with, again, my success is definitely questionable right now because financially it's not, but we're growing really fast, making an impact, I think, doing really good stuff. And it's because of the community. I mean, even the master classes, like Philip did one on Facebook ads, which was huge. And then, I know Ryan just did one. I haven't watched it yet. I know I need to because it sounds awesome. And then Jazz, just another thing, just thinking of things that pop quickly was, and this is good advice for people who may not know. Jazz brought up the whole on Beehive. If you don't turn off a setting when you're sending people to your Beehive page, there's a button underneath that says read past issues. And if you leave that on when you send people that page, instead of putting in their email, they click read past issues and then they don't subscribe. And he learned that lesson the hard way, shared it with everybody, and I took action on it that day, and it cut my acquisition costs in half. I mean, how much did that save me? Like being in the group, just that piece of advice right there, right? So, um, it's amazing, and I think you're right too about which we should get into of how this local newsletter, really local media company, is how I prefer to think about it. How many different angles you can take at this, right? And you personally are taking one of the most unique angles at it than almost anybody. Probably, literally, you're the most unique. and that's really cool that you're doing that. Again, a lot of that is specific to where you are, right, in the Catskills. Maybe, yeah, tell me about how you think about that, doing the unique angle that you're taking versus, let's say, honestly, guys like me in the boring suburbs are just doing kind of, traditional simple stuff, not outside the box.
I think like it comes back to why I started this. Again, my background really weird, all over the place, different startups. I got completely burnt out about 2 years ago after just too many headwinds with capital raising for a bigger venture. I was like, man, I just want to build something that is authentically me, that connects me to my community, and I will kind of wear my entrepreneurial hat through that, and build businesses on top of it. And pretty quickly I recognized opportunities for creative monetization, which for me beat out traditional monetization. I think that's probably a general rule of thumb that applies to most local newsletters. You can outperform ad revenue when you get creative.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it started with just events. And then I realized, where I live is an interesting place. We're in the middle of the woods, but we have close proximity to Manhattan. So it's really kind of like we have this locals, we have weekenders, we have vacationers, and I wanted to do something more than events. And I always think everyone's worried about kind of defensive moats. How do I keep AI from taking my content? How do I block someone else from spawning a competitor? I see it the polar opposite. How do you create a magnet that when someone comes across Catskill Crew, they want to stick around? And I think that is, it's kind of an operator's choice, and it has to be unique to yourself. It could be the content, it could be the aesthetic, it could be the vibes. Like I am good vibes only, fun and community oriented. If it doesn't align in that space, in that trinity, I don't touch it. User experience or subscriber experience is kind of mission critical for me. So I will say no to a $10,000 deal that I think disrupts my user experience, because again, I'm playing the longest game possible. I want to die owning Catskill Crew. And I always joke around like, you
Mm-hmm.
offer me $2
Transparent.
million right now for an acquisition, I'm going to say no. If you
Mm-hmm.
offer me $2.5 million, I'll sit down for a couple beers. But honestly, like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to sell it for? What am I going to go do with that money? I just want to run Catskill Crew.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'd literally be selling my future. And I'd be sitting around twiddling my thumbs. And so, the content itself is evolving. The brand is evolving. And I'm constantly testing new opportunities to extend what that content looks like. And one of the biggest factors of the way I've driven this is I don't let my subscribers be content consumers. I let them be, community participants. They are driving the direction of where Catskill Crew goes, for better or worse. And so, the other day, I'm issue 73, 74 right now. I send once a week on Tuesdays. And I just launched houses for the first time. And, my community voted on that content being in there. And it's like it's a microcosm for a much richer kind of experience here that people know every week's going to be different. This is not trad media. This is something completely unique. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hopefully I answered your question a little
Yeah.
bit there. I
Well, yeah, no, that's a great overview because your content is definitely, the most unique, not just the content, but let's actually talk real quick. This could be some good advice and ideas. I personally think one of the big things people are missing, that isn't that difficult, and maybe what you're doing is a little more difficult, but is just design, making it feel like a premium product or unique, or you know either of those. Too many people just kind of use H2 as the header, and then they, right. And I think the visual appeal is a key piece. So yours is clearly the most unique visually. So maybe talk about like why you do it that way. And of course, I know you've shared with how you're doing this. And again, I don't think it's a secret. If you want to tell people how you make it look so good and so unique.
Yeah, man. I always thought that the inbox is a sea of noise, and it's really not hard to stand out. And that could literally be as simple as changing the background color from white to gray. And
Mm-hmm.
when someone scrolls through the inbox, deleting, all of a sudden you pop out. They know it's instantly, when you come
Yep.
across Catskill Crew in your inbox, you know,
You don't have to
you
read
could
it to
be
know.
no, you could be blind, deaf, and dumb, and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, maybe not blind, but you
Yeah.
know immediately where
Yeah.
you are. And I think that's, it comes back to that user experience again. And so, again, this has evolved. You go back to my first newsletter, it looked terrible. It was built on Mailer Lite. It just looked like trash. But it doesn't matter. Everyone kind of lets that pursuit of perfection and having something crystallized be a headwind. And I'm like, fuck that. Let it be kind of a let it be a tailwind. Let it be a wind from starboard that pushes you in the right direction over time. And so, I just went through a major redesign the other day, and these will continue to happen all the time when I find the inspiration. But, I think you want to build for the folks that are trying to build a brand, there's a big difference. If you're really trying to build a brand, which I think if you sell a hat and they sell out and people are wearing a hat with your logo on it of your newsletter, you built a brand. Good job. Congratulations. And there's a big difference on that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, I use Midjourney for a lot of kind of my image creation. I go to the public library and I pull, old books off with woodcut engravings and take pictures, and I layer all of this in because it's part of where we are. It's part of the tapestry of the Catskill Mountains and the history of the 1700s, 1800s, hell 1600s up here when the Dutch came up. And so I want to take this place, the past, and layer it into the present moment. I think that's an important part of this. I see newsletters all the time with, fill in the blank crew, my exact font, my exact
Really?
branding. Hell yeah, brother, kill it. I have no issue with it. It's the same as Ryan with Scoop. I think it's totally fine. You're not stepping on my toes, but the challenge is, does my brand work in your market? Probably not. It probably feels weird.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you're in Manhattan and you're using Catskill Crew brand and woodcut and engravings, doesn't make sense.
That's
So
right.
really kind of understand who you are, what your market is, what your content is, and try to create a brand that's cohesive and reflective of that. And understand that is going to evolve along the journey as well. But you really kind of want that. It will help people connect to what you are building.
Yes, yes, and I think so. Again, yours is super unique again because where you are is unique. To your point, if I tried to do this in Leander, Texas, like it wouldn't make any sense, right? But I mean, first of all, if for anybody listening, you got to watch the YouTube video to see this, or go check out his website. But like, you can, and it looks a little different here because this is not an email, right? This is your blog version of it on Beehive. But I mean, the page breaks right here, incredible. Um, like you said, just changing the color background. Oh, you just introduced this. Maybe speak to this bulletin real quick because I'm actually curious. I know you just started doing this.
Yeah, this is a huge thing for me, and I'm pretty pumped about how this turned out. I've been saying no to advertisements, as you know. You're in
Mm-hmm.
the newsletter club all day, and I'm like, yeah, I just passed up 12 inbounds again.
And
And the
everybody's like,
reason
"Holy crap! I wish I was had that much inbound." Yeah.
it's insane. And I've said I don't do any outbound anymore. None. Unless
Really.
it's like a dream partner, but I haven't pulled the trigger on that in a long time. So it's all inbound. And I've been saying no to pretty much everyone. And the reason why is because of my user experience. It disrupts my entire flow. I worked with a partner, or a buddy of mine who's a realtor, and he sent me like a big headshot. He's tan and beautiful and wearing a pink shirt. And I'm like, dude, I can't fucking put this in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're killing my vibe. And I did it way early on, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. And so I would price accordingly. If you want to disrupt this flow, you better give me a couple grand. And even then, I'm hesitant. I'm not going to
Yeah.
sleep well at night. And so I was trying
Yeah.
to figure out this entire time, how do I weave your brand as an advertiser into my brand and my flow?
Okay.
And I think there's massive benefit in that because, one, being able to, for example, the Forest Exchange, this is a bare root farm. They're awesome people doing great things. That's important. The rest are also opportunities for other partners. I launched this quick. We'll fill that up in time. But I think it's important because it makes me, I come back to how I would experience Catskill Crew or anyone's newsletter. If I'm scrolling through and I see this big line break and this sponsored content, and you're BSing me about why this brand is great or why this local business is great, like, no, weave it into the entire experience. Make me feel
Mm-hmm.
like, the Forest Exchange are crew members in Catskill Crew. So I feel this kind of invisible connection to them. I feel like I like them already because we are kind of in the same town square together. And I think this this makes people think, more positively of Catskill Crew and all the advertisers that are part of this. And this space, I think the most exciting thing for me is that it doesn't feel like ad space. It feels like a place where you want to come explore. What else is on the board today? What else is going on? What's happening here? And I think folks are going to get very playful and very creative for how they leverage these posters. And I think there's going to be some real magic, like creating ads that don't feel like ads that you actually want to check out. Like
No, that's
that's what it's all about.
so. Yeah, no, I mean it looks killer. Is the idea here, because you've got what we're looking at here is one, two, three, four. There's like six technically. They're different sizes, but there's six squares on here. Is the idea that an advertiser would own the whole thing and then they can put different things on there, or is it you'd have six in an ideal world? You'd have six different ads on this.
I think I'd probably, the design itself probably will change up, every
Mm-hmm.
so often. I don't know if that's every week or not, but I want multiple advertisers on the bulletin every
Okay.
single week.
Okay.
So it feels like a proper old bulletin. You show up and it's like,
Okay.
oh, someone's hiring someone. There's a house for sale or for rent. There's a contractor who's, taking on new jobs, so on and so forth.
I see. Okay. So almost another way to think about this could be like classifieds, like in a better version of classifieds.
A non-brand version of classified,
Yeah, yeah.
spot on.
Okay. Okay, cool. Because I know I've been I actually did a classifieds for a little bit when we first started, but anyway, I want to get back to the concept, and this is just again a more natural way to do it. So that's killer. Yeah, excited to see how that goes for you. But again, I think the quick takeaway for everyone is now he's using Midjourney. You're using Midjourney to come up with these designs, which is an extra layer of complexity. But I mean, even if you do what I do, which is just use Canva and make these designs, that alone puts you ahead of 95% of the competition. You may not be number one, but you can be in the top
99.
5%, 99 probably.
99.9%.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what you see there
yeah,
with happenings in the deer, that's
yeah,
Canva. What you see
yeah, yeah,
behind the word game, that's
yeah,
Midjourney. The
yeah,
fly is Canva. That is
yeah,
all Canva on the bulletin. The nail
yeah,
is Canva.
yeah,
You don't have to get crazy.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
you don't have to have crazy design shops.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of start building stuff and have fun, and it doesn't
Yeah,
take much. That's an old engraving from a book I came
yeah.
across of
That's
a
just the
of a
image.
Fisher cat. So it's this
Yeah,
blend of assets that exists. That's
yeah.
Midjourney.
That's Midjourney. Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So I think just so everybody knows, I remember when I would see newsletters like this, and this just looked to me like it's overwhelmingly good. Like if you haven't used Canva before or anything, you look at this and you go, "Well, I'd have to pay a designer a fortune to do this," and it's like, no, no, no. Each piece is pretty simple and straightforward inside of Canva, and then it's just how you place them and where you put them in, and it makes it look so much better, even though when you really break it down, it's not that many steps or that difficult. And hopefully people realize that and start putting some more effort in, because I'd like to see some nicer ones from other people. So
Yeah,
anyway,
it's amazing. It's amazing how kind of subpar design shops are in newsletters. It doesn't
it
take
really
much to
is.
kind of go above and beyond. I mean, again, it comes down to just change the background color and your leagues ahead of most people.
That alone, yeah, and that can be in Beehive. You don't need Canva for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny that what you just said though. That's kind of true with a lot of things in life, right? Like just put in that little bit of extra effort, and you're in the top 5%, right, or
100.
more,
Yep.
because so few people
Accurate.
do with anything, which is so true.
Yep.
Um, give me your take, how you see the whole like local newsletter versus media company, and I know what you've probably seen. I think you've kind of mostly pushed back, although mainly that's more of a personal thing. I think on social media. And then you already mentioned AI. Is there a play on that question that relates to AI? How do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I think the barrier to entry for creation of pretty much anything, it doesn't matter if it's CPG, newsletters, content, it's never been lower. Anyone could start anything in an afternoon. And so, but how many people have joined TNC and, never posted anything or started a newsletter, and then
Mm-hmm.
after they don't make a penny after a week or a month, they're like, this
Yeah.
is bullshit,
Yep.
I'm out. And so I think it just comes down to like, even though the barriers are lower than ever, which I think is actually very is a net positive. Like when you democratize this stuff, it's better for humanity, in my opinion. But you still need to show up. However,
Mm-hmm.
there are folks who don't write a single word. AI is aggregating and writing everything on their behalf, and a VA is hitting send. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Great, but you want to just make sure that as you build and operate your business with that kind of strategy and that approach, that it's resilient or resistant to kind of the natural predators that are moving in. I have zero worries in the world because what I'm creating is extremely on brand for myself. I am not upcycling news. Yes, someone could come and aggregate events, but people aren't just showing up for the events. They're showing
Mhm.
up for kind of the vibe, the ethos, and the fact that I actually bring community together IRL. And so, it's just, it comes down to an operator. What's important to you? What are your skills? What are your goals with this thing? For me, it's not to maximize budget for or revenue from ads. What that would translate to, and what you see all the time, is I launch, if that was my goal, if it was just to maximize revenue, well, I wouldn't be having the conversations. I just had 4 calls with advertisers today, and I'm like, look, I'm not here to negotiate. Like, whatever works for you, I'm happy to make it work. Like from a revenue standpoint, I want to build long-term relationships with these businesses. I want to support them to the best of my ability. And look, if you're a HVAC company, yeah, man, I'm going to charge you more than I charged, the Forest Exchange, who I hooked up, because
Mhm.
those are important folks who have a lean operation. Um, so, I think it comes down to what are your goals? And so, if it was to maximize my revenue, I'd be launching on a Tuesday. I'd be only working with high LTV businesses. I would max out my ad inventory. I would launch a Thursday cadence and then a Wednesday cadence and then a Saturday cadence. But there's a paradox there because the more touch points I have, most likely, I'm obviously increasing my revenue because of my ad inventory, but my quality of content's probably shitting the bed. Just
Mhm.
there's no way I could put out 2 or 3 versions of Catskill Crew. I want everyone to be a nice touch point. And so for me, coming back to as a unique operator, running my business the way I want to do it, the revenue pie, from ads, it's maybe I'll do $100,000 a year off of that. It's really not important for max monetization. I'd rather make $0 and support good businesses. I want to own the businesses that I advertise in time, and I want to be extremely creative to build products, services. To leverage my newsletter as a validation engine for new ideas and a distribution vehicle to get those out into the world and to do it authentically. That's the number one thing for me, authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And I think it shines through, and that's why you're getting so many people to reach out to you, right? So
Well, you
tell,
mentioned you
yeah,
mentioned something about social media, right?
yeah,
Like
social
this
media.
is a great example of the microcosm. You got someone like Jazz at Winnipeg. He crushes it with social media.
Mhm.
He's using it as top funnel to bring people into his newsletter. He's selling that space to his advertisers. I'm the
Mhm.
polar opposite.
Mhm.
I post a picture, I post a video of me fly fishing occasionally, like not even me, a river.
Mhm.
I turn down tens of thousands of dollars for businesses that are asking me to post reels of them. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, it
Mhm.
would ruin any fun I have. And so,
Yeah.
I understand this and I wish to some degree I wasn't like that,
Mhm.
but I lean into my strengths. I outsource my weaknesses and the things that don't align with me, they sit on the
Mhm.
periphery and things change. But right now, that's kind of where I'm at. So,
Yeah.
whoever's listening to this, like, kind of almost like Japanese ikigai, all these Venn diagrams. Start observing
Mhm.
what is your market like? What do you care about? What are your content strategies? How do you want to leverage these platforms in a way that's important? Do you want to be writing this content or do you want AI and a VA to do it all? There's no right answers. It's
Yeah.
personal.
I I couldn't agree more. Not only is it personal, and there's so many different options, but it also options will change based on location, right? Like we already said, I couldn't do what you're doing. That would not work. Even if if you moved to Leander, you couldn't replicate your business, right?
No
So
way.
yeah, and so the optionality here, the choices, the ability to do what you want, not what you want, like there's so much here, and I think to really succeed, it's that the authenticity piece is what you need to do no matter where it is, right? If that can be, well, I shouldn't even say that's required, but like that is probably your likeliest way to stay above the AI piece, to build that affinity, um, to be able to succeed the way that you have, even if it's a different version of it. Authenticity still is what people want, and will want even more in a world of AI. So, and I think you're just primed to take advantage of that, which is killer.
I think there's space for all of it, right? And
Yeah.
I was shared on TNC the other day that like in the last couple of weeks, I think there's been now 14 new local newsletters that have started in the Catskills. And I've
What?
reached out to, yeah, 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 yeah. In the last
Right.
like, yeah, not even much time at all. I've reached out to a ton of them, and
Wow.
I'm happy to support them however I can. I don't think any of them are
Yeah.
coming to eat my lunch. One is trying, which God bless, go for it. Free market
Yeah.
mentality, that's cool. But a lot of them have found opportunity spaces within Catskill Crew, and most of them are actually subscribers. So it's great to see it. I'm building relationships with these other operators, and one I'm actually talking about being a contributor to
Mm-hmm.
as an individual, not
Yeah.
Catskill Crew, because I really
Yeah.
like what they're doing. And so like just because another local newsletter exists in your market, like it doesn't mean there's no more
Mhm.
opportunity. There are dozens in the woods up here. So I guarantee
Mhm.
you, whoever
Yeah.
you are, wherever you are, you have competition and it's not a nail in the coffin. Some of these folks are really kind of addressing corners of the market that I can't touch.
Mhm.
Deep journalism. I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
And someone's doing that and they're doing it really well. I'm excited. Another person has completely kind of found an opportunity specifically in the queer market up here. So there was
Mhm.
a big kind of queer ski weekend. 150 events across the entire Catskills. And I was like, holy shit, I can't cover all these, of
Mhm.
course, like, but I'm going to
Mhm.
cover as many as I can. I was like, someone needs to launch a newsletter in this niche, like for this
Yeah.
demo. And
Yeah.
2 weeks later, they did. And I reached out. I was like, this looks awesome. I'm
Mhm.
super pumped for you. Like, I could support them and they could support me simultaneously. And
Exactly.
again, it's a benefit to the community as a whole.
Yeah, love it. I mean, I when I talked to Landon, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but he's been collaborating. He said something similar. Don't worry about competitors generally. He's collaborating with some of them and they're helping each other grow, right? So I generally agree with you on this idea of collaboration is better because you can actually make the pie bigger, right? This is not a fixed pie, just like, capitalism, right? There's not a fixed pie. You can make the pie bigger.
And like in TNC, you got Stephanie and Michael in Australia. Like Stephanie launched just recently. Michael literally gave her a shout out in his newsletter, driving traffic to her. It's like
Mhm.
that's awesome. I understand where people get a little worked up about competition, where it's like, look, people feed their families, and they need this money. And if you're all fighting for the same advertiser, like, okay, well, that could be worrisome for some folks. I think it's the opposite. These
Mhm.
advertisers are spending money on multiple publications to begin with. They're spending money on Instagram and Facebook to get the word out. But guess what? The Instagram ads have failed. They've failed every business I've ever spoken to up here. I always share this one story of a local business owner, Mike, who owns a brewery up here. He's like, dude, I used to post for free, get insane traffic. Then I had to pay for that traffic. Now I can't pay for what I once got for free. He's like, you are the conduit for all of this. And
Mhm.
so people are going to, yes, it's your job to educate businesses why direct to inbox is the most efficient way to market. Um, Especially as your audience grows and they're highly engaged, but those businesses are going to awaken to the opportunity and they're going to be spreading ad money all over the place. But I think we're still at the cusp of educating small businesses on why they should advertise in a local newsletter versus in print media, which is a black box.
Yeah, totally. I think you're exactly right. The competition is not other newsletters; it's traditional media, or it's just lack of understanding of the model, right? Again, I think we all talk about when you go to a business. Most local business owners talk about a local newsletter, like they don't know what it is, and they don't want to invest in something they don't know what it is. So if you have competitors that are helping educate the market on what something is, that may mean more businesses are willing to advertise in that model. And so, to your point,
And the best place to find your advertisers is in your subscription base, right? Like
well,
you run a local newsletter, your subscribers are business owners. And so there's thoughtful ways to uh, to 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 educate them on the opportunity or to let them know that the door is open to have conversation. One of the ways I did it was I just threw an event. It was a year ago, I think I threw my first event, and the business did. First off, I outperformed my ad money in 2 hours than I did for an entire month. I connected with my subscribers, built relationships with them. The business that was the venue for this. They did like 7K over the bar. They moved 12 hotel rooms on a Tuesday. And everyone who's in attendance, many of them were local business owners. Like, holy
Mm-hmm.
shit. Like, can we do one of these at our place? And so,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to build relationships with your subscribers, those local business owners. It's a competitive advantage. We are every place I go, I'm interacting with a subscriber, or a business owner, or an advertiser, or a partner in some way, and it's awesome. No one knows my face. I just wear a hat, and
Mm-hmm.
people are like, "Oh, I know that newsletter." I'm like, "Awesome, yeah, man! Like that's me. I put that on." Like, "Oh, yeah, I heard you have a mustache and a dog." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then next thing we know, we're having a business meeting, and finding a way to throw an event over the summer or something like that. I think it's really powerful the way it connects you to your community.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.